and welcome back to season 2 of the newspaper article Lucky Dip. We've been away for a little bit. Tech, injury, doing out and about stuff. It's kept us from the newspapers, hasn't it? So we get back into this, see what we have to start us off today. There's an elfie boy kicking about getting into everything, so see how that goes. Probably as usual. So to start us, we have the Edinburgh Evening News for the 1st of December 1877. And we'll see what the Edinburgh Evening News has for us. Okay, so we have an article entitled Strange Occurrence in a Tunnel. An inquest was held at Husbands Bosworth, Leicestershire yesterday, on the body of Edward Bramley, a boatman, who met with his death in the long tunnel on the Grand Union Canal under very suspicious circumstances. On Wednesday morning, the deceased had charge of a canal boat with two men named Smith and Mattock. Smith and Bramley had some words and fought, but they again became friendly before reaching the tunnel. Deceased and Smith lay on their backs to push the boat through with their legs, but on coming out at the other end, Bramley was missing, and Smith stated that he had fallen into the water. A little later, Smith told a woman that he must have fought with Bramley in the tunnel, adding that the deceased caught hold of his hand when in the water, saying, "Goodbye, Sam, God bless you, I am going," and he sank like a stone. Smith was drunk when he made this statement, which he afterwards contradicted. The body, when recovered, showed from its appearance that death had been caused by drowning, there being no injuries whatever. Smith's face bore several marks as if caused by fighting. The jury returned a verdict of accidental death. Just from that small amount of information, I'm going to say that it wasn't accidental. I'm going to put it out there that Mr. Contradicting himself probably was responsible for our man's death. His description of the deceased catching hold of his hand and his final words being, "Goodbye, Sam, God bless you, I'm going," that's very romanticised. That's been idealised in this man's head. He's come up with the best possible circumstances to relay to anyone he meets that may have questions regarding this incident. The only reason you would need to idealise a situation in this kind of situation would be if you were very guilty of doing a thing, guilty of putting him in the water. I mean, he may not have intended on killing his friends. He may just have pushed him into water after being struck by him, since he did bear marks of a fight. Maybe he's just pushed him in, not realising that his friend couldn't swim very well, and he has sunk like a stone. But if you are in the water and you can't swim, or even if you can, but you're finding yourself in difficulty, you're not going to be giving this final eulogy to your friends. "Oh, that's it, I'm going. Ta-ra!" You're going to be fighting for your life. You're going to be trying to stay afloat. You're going to be asking for help from anybody that was near you. I call suspicious circumstances to this article. I think that it was not an accidental death, or at least not an entirely accidental death. So, well, that's got us started, hasn't it? Let's see what we have next. We have the Dundee Advertiser for the 26th of July 1866. And we'll see for the Dundee Advertiser what it has for us. Okay, so we have an article entitled "A Female Soldier Shot at Custoza." A Florence journal relates that after the Battle of Custoza, a surgeon of the Italian army discovered among the wounded a young corporal of Bersaglieri still alive, notwithstanding 3 severe injuries in the neck, left arm and right leg. When about to dress those wounds, the surgeon perceived that the sufferer was a young woman, who then declared her name to be Herminia Minelli, and her age 20. Just before the opening of the campaign, her brother, who was a corporal of Bersaglieri, had fallen ill and returned home to his family until his recovery. The sister, whose parents had previously had some difficulty in preventing from joining the Garibaldians, took advantage of that circumstance and, cutting short her hair, dressed herself in her brother's uniform and joined his regiment, her resemblance to him enabling her to pass unnoticed. 4 hours later, her regiment were engaged, and she was wounded on the field of battle. After the discovery of her sex by the surgeon, she was taken to Florence, where she died a few days after. Happened quite a lot though, didn't it? We did mini documentary series for Independence Live, and one of them was entitled Gender Fluidity in Scottish History, and it was a part 2 to the Pride in Scottish History episode, and there was so much of this. Very few instances of men acting and carrying themselves as women, which isn't super surprising when you come to ask yourself why they would. In those days, dressing as a woman wasn't going to secure you a better paying job. It wasn't going to earn you respect from your peers in any way. There was very little that you could benefit by dressing as a woman and living as a woman. You couldn't vote, there were a lot of restrictions. Women, however, had a lot to gain from being able to carry themselves as a guy. So they could get into manual labour, which paid better than pretty much any service job that the woman had readily available to them. But they could also, if they were so spirited, as this young woman was, they could fight for their country. And there were captains of regiments who were found to be women, usually on being injured or being taken to the bed to give birth. There was a few that were outed because they got pregnant, which led to questions among the soldiers. But yeah, it just wasn't very uncommon at all. There were instances of women with maybe polycystic ovary syndrome, where that can lead you to growing facial hair. And seemingly in Europe, certainly, the police would give these women a card, say that they were female should they come up against any instances where that might need to be verified in any way. But there are women who would grow the facial hair and then just, it's easier just to dress as a man because I get stared at less than if I walk down the streets in a dress and a bonnet. So they were given the legal right to dress as men so as to lessen the public spectacle. So this just wasn't very uncommon at all. It's a nice instance of it, but it's a shame that she died due to her wounds. We don't find out if her brother then maybe went to revenge her death by rejoining after recuperating. But yeah, I'll put a link to the gender fluidity in Scottish history because it was a really interesting series to get into and research. We'll see what we have next. Maybe get 4 today, hence how long this next one is, I guess. Let's have a look. Oh, I'm taking 2 out. Let's see what this one is. My favourite, the Caledonian Mercury for the 5th of August 1844. Let's see what the Caledonian Mercury has for us. So we've had 1877, 1866 and now 1844. It's fairly coincidental considering this is completely random. Okay, this article does not give very much away by its title. We have singular phenomenon. On Thursday afternoon, about 3:30 to 4:30, it was observed from the shores of Kinghorn that the Bass Rock assumed a singular appearance. Its altitude appeared to more than double its usual height. There then appeared to rest upon it a dark object, which soon assumed its own form in an inverted position resting upon it, so that 2 dark black rocks seemed as if by some strange occurrence to be placed the one above the other and joined at the apex of each. The rocks adjoining had the same strange appearance. North Berwick Law, too, immediately after underwent a similar change. From its beautiful conical shape, it appeared to flatten itself at the top, to extend its breadth to a great extent, and then to gather up its sides into immense precipices, and have on its summit a large castellated appearance. This was not confined to that side of the Forth, for Gilston Hill on the Fife side soon was observed to assume similar appearance. At first there appeared a dark speck hovering over its summit, like an immense bird alighting upon it, then it appeared to rise in its altitude, and its summit assumed a flattened appearance. It was remarked that the change did not affect any higher hill than those pointed out. Largo Law underwent no apparent change, although the ridge leading from it to the East Neuk showed at various points, according to the altitude of the Bass Rock and Gilston Hill, that they were also subject to the same remarkable appearances. I wonder if that's a weather phenomenon. The way they're describing it initially sounded like some kind of bizarre cryptid or a large bird or something had landed on it. But it gives the way that it changed, the different appearances that these rocks were taking as they changed. And I assume it's some kind of optical illusion, maybe something to do with the weather phenomenon. And there was maybe some kind of heat haze that was meaning that the mountains were reflected into the clouds above, or I don't know, you'd need someone far smarter than me to work out how that could happen. I assume it's some kind of light, weather, optical illusion combining to make this, rather than that Scotland is experiencing an influx of cryptids or paranormal scenarios or events over on the East Coast. I don't know, that's really strange. I would want to see what that looked like. Might get Alex to try and mock up a picture of how that might look. But yeah, no, I'm not sure about that one, and I'm glad we finished on it. So I may see you for the next one. Take care, enjoy. Hello, baby boy. Oh, I knew I heard your brother too. Oh my goodness. Me? You're recording yourself? Me? Maybe we got down here. Butt to the face. Can you see a vet? I can see a vet better. She's not just a black silhouette. You can see some of her very pretty face. So that's nice. Okay. Hi, baby. You joining us? You joining us, darling?